Well, good evening, everyone. We just want to say thank you so much for coming out tonight. It means more than we can say. We were really looking forward to this, as this is our home church. I've been coming here since I was basically 5 or 6, till I went to Bible school, and we just keep getting brought back. So very thankful and very happy to be here tonight and just share with you a little bit about the ministry that we've just joined with Mission Aviation Fellowship. And if there's some kids here tonight, or you're just a kid at heart and you like planes, we have some little kits at the back you can take, or coloring books for your grandkids if they're interested. There's some little puzzles in there and stuff. But like all planes, they do take money to fly. So you can insert a coin that'll work here as a little weight. And this hasn't been tested very much, and this one's been crumpled by our daughter a lot. So it needs some maintenance, but feel free to grab one of those if that interests you. So to start us off tonight, I'm just going to let my sweetheart here start us off with a story.
Well, thanks. Again, thank you so much all for coming. We really appreciate it. I'd like to start off by telling you about a little bit about MAF with a story. Kim Smith is with an organization called Word Sower. Word Sower operates in Liberia with the primary purpose of evangelism and discipleship, operating where thousands are without a church or a trained pastor. When Kim first arrived in Liberia, he was traveling by foot from village to village, and he noticed an incredible lack of Christian literature. Since its inception now, Word Sower has grown and started a Bible school. The Bible school aims to teach discipleship training skills, as well as church planting, missionary work, and basic biblical theology. The students from these schools then travel by motorbike from village to village to between 60 and 100 villages per month. So then these students will share the gospel and have actually passed out over 200,000 copies of the Bible. As a result of this mass effort, vast amount of people have come to know Christ and been baptized. Some of the students have also gone on to learn basic dentistry skills as well in order to serve the physical needs of people. Word Sower is also involved in the distribution of malaria medication, which only costs 75 cents, as well as clean drinking water solutions to combat the two main killers in Liberia. It's an amazing ministry. So what's the point of MAF in all this, and why am I talking about Word Sower? Well, the roads in Liberia are so bad that often it takes 20 to 40 hours in order to travel a distance of 300 miles. That time can be brought down to 1 hour with the transport of a plane. And apart from transporting personnel, MAF is involved in transporting some larger items such as printing presses that have now been able to put out more than 30,000 pages a day of Christian literature. Before I get too far ahead though, I think it'd be a good idea if we told you a little bit about MAF's history, how they got started, so we can understand a little bit better who they are, and I'll let Nacia share a little bit about that.
So after World War II, God was working in the hearts of a number of post-war airmen and women. They had been using aircraft as instruments of death and destruction, and so they wanted to see, hey, how could these be used instead to bring life and help to isolated communities around the world? Some of you may have heard of the pilot Nate Saint, or perhaps you've read the book Jungle Pilot, which is the story of his life. There's also a movie called End of the Spear, which we've lent it to some friends, but if any of you want to watch it, we can probably get that out into you. It's really, it's an awesome story. I'll give you a little snapshot here though, in case you don't know. So Nate Saint was an MAF pilot. In the mid-1950s, he, along with 4 others, felt called to reach the Waodani tribe in Ecuador. This was a very hostile tribe known for killing without warning, and so by plane, Nate located their settlement, and they began to drop gifts in a bucket to the tribe, and it was after a while they were feeling like this was being well received, so they wanted to continue moving forward in efforts to try to reach them. And so they decided to land a while later on a sandbar 4 miles up from the tribe's settlement and just kind of let them approach them and start learning language and continue to build a relationship. There was encouraging progress being made. However, a misunderstanding tragically led to the 5 being martyred. This did not stop evangelism to the tribe, though. In fact, it very much hastened it after Nate's own sister, Rachel, among others, moved into the tribe. Many came to know Christ, including the members of the Spearing Party. And 10 years later, in fact, Nate's own son, Steve Saint, was baptized in the same river where his father had been killed by 2 members of the Spearing Party. God's radical love is so clearly evident here in how it transformed this one hostile tribe with the love of Christ. This is just one small glimpse of God's faithfulness seen through the ministry of MAF in the last 75 years. So today our vision is to see isolated people changed by the love of Christ. And our mission is serving, as a fellowship, is serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. So what does this look like today?
I'm glad you asked. So MAF has now changed and grown since 1945 into the organization it is today, operating in 34 countries around the world. The programs in these countries serve many isolated people who have dire needs such as safe transportation, poor or no access to medical care, limited access to the gospel, and so much more. With a fleet of roughly 130 aircraft, MAF actually has the largest private airline in the world. The aircraft and the men and women who operate and maintain them ensure that isolated people are able to get the medical care that they so desperately need, such as flying doctors in for medical clinics or flying patients out for medical evacuation flights. As a parent myself, I often think about the safety and well-being of my daughter Elodie and our next one to come. If Elodie was having trouble breathing, I can call 911 or I can bring her to the hospital myself, absolute worst case scenario. In Madagascar, that was not the case though. When the parents of a young baby realized that their child was not breathing properly, they were able to call an MAF flight, which was able to transport their child in an hour and a half to a hospital so that the child could receive safe care, proper care. The only alternative that was there was an 8-hour drive on motorbike on bumpy roads, followed by another 8-hour drive in taxi cab. For the over 1,500 regular partner organizations that work with MAF, it means that vital time that would normally be used for transportation can now be used instead for delivering intended services. MAF fills a vital role in the transportation of medical supplies, Bibles, building materials, and in times of crisis, emergency food supplies. MAF is also involved in the transportation of national pastors, teachers, relief workers, doctors, and other medical care professionals who are able to provide medical clinics for those who would normally never actually have the chance to even see a doctor. In fact, it's estimated that every 4 to 5 minutes, an MAF plane either takes off or lands. We have a short video that we would like to show you that I feel emphasizes well what MAF is and does. Just a short disclaimer, some of the statistics that we're telling you now differs from what you might see on the video, and that's just because the video is not current as of 2023.
For over 70 years, this is what we've been doing, getting up early to get out there and fly. What motivates me is just seeing change, being that essential lifeline that makes a huge difference around the world. We're flying every day into isolated communities where there's no road, there's no infrastructure. We're coming onto the sides of mountains, we're going into the remote bush. We're taking that life wherever we go. When we talk about flying for life, we mean it in the fullest sense of the word. It's not just about food and water and a safe place to live, but it's about health, it's about education, it's about transformation of communities and seeing them thrive, and it's about taking Jesus' love into those places.
MAF was started by a couple of World War II pilots. They'd returned from the war
They'd been using aircraft to drop bombs, and now they could see that aircraft could be used to bring life and to bring hope. It was a very humble beginning, just one aircraft, but that aircraft was fueled by the prayers of many. We are pilots and engineers, we are IT specialists, we are administrators, we are managers, but we're so much more. We're the faithful prayer partners at home, we're the people helping raise the funds. Together we are Mission Aviation Fellowship. I don't know yet what transformation my flights today will bring. I don't know what transformation every other flight will bring, but I know this, that for every flight we do, we are motivated by flying for life.
So, how did God draw us to missions, and MAF specifically? Well, through the years growing up, I think it would have been hard for me to see and identify, but looking back, I can really see God's guiding hand in my life, drawing me in this direction. I grew up in a loving Christian home, but the truth is my faith wasn't really my own. I didn't understand the gospel. I didn't understand that salvation was by faith and through grace and not by works. I was not a follower of Christ, and I just did not know the loving call of Christ. I was a typical kid, though, that was fascinated by airplanes, as you can see in this picture, always staring up at the sky, wanting to be a pilot. But in my later years, when I got to high school and I actually learned how much it would cost to get a pilot's license, I decided that was maybe a bad idea. So I gave that up. Then I went to Peace River Bible Institute because I wanted to see if there's something about God that I did not understand. I had seen a large change and transformation in my brother's life, and through a conversation with him, I decided I need to give God a last chance. So I went to Peace River Bible Institute, and boy, did God show me who he was. He really started transforming my life there, and after my first year, I was offered the opportunity to join a music team, and I was super excited about the prospect because I enjoyed playing the drums. But there was a catch. This music team was also going to be going on a missions trip to the Philippines. Our purpose there was to teach music lessons in some places, or just play music, or do VBS, some such thing involving music, and then we would let a local pastor come and speak in Tagalog in order to share the gospel. And it was through this trip that I really feel like God opened my eyes to the physical and spiritual needs of others around the world. Then, after I came back from this missions trip, so this was in my second summer, right away I was introduced to a friend of a friend who was doing his flight training at Prairie Bible Institute. He took me up for my first flight in a small aircraft, and I like to steal Nacia's joke that it was love at first flight. I knew that I had to do this. It was through these two events God was really starting to steer me down a path towards missions and involving aviation. But there was still another piece. So I went back for a third year at Peace River Bible Institute, where I met at a global ministries conference. I met a pilot who had formerly been flying in South America. I think I must have taken up his whole weekend asking him questions and finding out about MAF and what they do. And I was just getting so excited, and I feel like God was really using these three events to really just funnel me in the direction of missions. So what next? Should I go get my pilot's license? Well, I also realize there's far more to becoming a missionary than there is in just flying a plane, knowing how to fly a plane. So I decided maybe it'd be a good idea to come back for a fourth year. The other thing was going to Peace River Bible Institute. I'd never really gone for a program. I just wanted to take the courses that interested me. And then I realized if I just take these 2 more courses, I can cram a 3-year degree into 4 years. So I went back. And it was a really good thing I did, because then I met the woman who would make the crazy decision to marry me.
So in my story, I'm the fourth and very much favorite of 7 children, and I can say that because they're not here. At least I don't see them here anyways. And yeah, like Dustin, I was privileged to grow up in a Christian home in this church as well. And when I was 4, of course, I prayed the sinner's prayer, but it was just because my older brother had come to a saving knowledge of the truth. I believe it was genuine, and but the way he communicated it to me, I was not understanding. He basically just said, well, you're going to go to hell if you don't also apologize to Jesus, and you're not going to see mom or dad again. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I'm going to do that. But I definitely didn't understand that God wanted relationship with me. Beyond that, it wasn't just about appeasing this distant God. And so, yeah, it wasn't until I was 8, our family went through a bit of a storm, and it was through that season that God really opened my eyes to himself, who he was, and my own personal need for him, actually, that he wanted relationship with me. And it was, as my faith grew, I felt like he was also showing me his heart for the world as well. And I never had this big epiphany, like missions moment, like I'm going to do missions, I have to do this. It was, looking back, it was just this constant weaving of an invitation through different things, different avenues, like Living Springs, some speakers there. All along the way, there was different things that were making me feel like, you know what, I want to pursue this. So after high school, I decided to attend Peace River Bible Institute. They have a missions program there it's 4 years. And they have an internship requirement, minimum 3 months, cross-cultural, and it's designed to kind of see how you could maybe serve best cross-culturally, as I really felt like I had no direction at the time. And so, so I went there. I had a chance to be in some leadership there in my time, and that was just really good experience overall. I love the program. It was very comprehensive as far as other schools I'd looked at. And so, so I went there after grade 12. Of course, in my first year, I met Dustin. And at first I was like, oh no, absolutely no boys, absolutely not, because this would derail my big plan. And but he had made his interest in missions known as well. And it turns out that God just wanted to add this extra blessing, which was awesome. So, so I was very thankful. We took it really slow. I finished the program, and he just had me hooked with 2 words when he said he'd wait.
Nacia and I were happily married in July of 2014. And shortly after, I started my own flight training journey on a part-time basis. After I finished my commercial license in Wetaskiwin here, the Lord very clearly opened the doors and led us to Manitoba, where I trained for an instructor rating and then subsequently taught other students how to fly planes. We were there for a total of 1.5 years, and it ended up being a very hard time for us for various reasons, and that's a whole nother story. But we decided after that time, it was time that we came back to the promised land of Alberta. So we came back, and I started the job hunt. And I was fortunate enough to get hired on by a medical evacuation company based out of Lac La Biche, where I was working for the past 4 years. And then recently quit as of June this year. Elodie was born on the 4th of November in 2021, and it started to seem like not moving in the direction of missions as we had felt God directing us was only going to result in temptation to stay where we were comfortable and build on that comfort rather than seeking first the kingdom of God. So what's the point of all this? Why are we here, and why are we telling you our story and everything? Well, I want to be the pilot that flies Kim Smith and Word Sower, or the baby that had the breathing issues in Madagascar. Nacia and I are so excited that the calling we have felt for so many years now is finally coming to fruition. And as we prepare to step in and serve with MAF, it's our privilege to share this with you. So thank you all for coming out and allowing us to connect with you tonight. But as we consider what God has called us to, we also realize we can't do this alone. We need others who will partner with us in ministry through prayer and monthly support. We need the body of Christ. And just as we feel called to overseas ministry, we also know that God calls others to participate in his kingdom and to experience the joy of that opportunity in other ways. Without support from people such as yourselves, there can't be pilots to fly Kenneth and Word Sower, and his ministry would not have the same far-reaching effect. Or the baby with the breathing issues, there certainly would have been a far worse outcome. As of today, we've shared with some of you, we don't exactly know where we will be stationed, But what we do know is we will go where there's great need to reach those who would otherwise be isolated from urgent medical care or the life-sustaining gospel of Christ, and that together we can make a difference for the glory of God in meeting the needs of the orphan and the widow and the downtrodden, and in spreading the gospel to the ends of the earth and fulfilling the Great Commission. With that, we'd like to invite you just to prayerfully consider joining our ministry partnership team, knowing that together we can make a difference in the isolated lives of people around the world. We have prayer cards in the back with our picture on that. Please feel free to take one if you haven't already, or take a second one if you wish and share with a friend. We always love references. If anybody else that you know is interested in missions and aviation, we would love to share with them as well. We have here a QR code that you can feel free to pull your phone out and scan that. That'll bring you right to our webpage as well. If you want to learn a little bit more, if you miss it though, we do have this QR code on the last slide as well. So don't worry about that. It'll be up there for a couple more minutes. Here's just a little sample of what we're looking for. An example is if all these seats were filled, then we would reach full support. But so we show this in typical aviation fashion with seats, but the truth is we don't value one seat above the other. There's no first class. All we are saying is that we value your partnership with us as you seek to follow God and how he leads each of us differently. We ask for your prayers as we build a ministry partnership team, and certainly for your prayers as we prepare for overseas ministry. If you have any further questions for us, I think we're basically finished up for the formal portion of our presentation. We'd love to answer any questions that you might have. And we'd just like to say thanks again for coming out and taking time out of your evening to hear what we had to say and what God has placed on our hearts.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you say that again? We are looking at about 15% to 16% for our monthly. And I haven't recently calculated the outgoing, but that has gone up in the past couple weeks as well. So we have an information sheet in the back that can also help break those numbers up because I don't have them memorized. I'd just like to say a little bit of a disclaimer before I say exactly what those numbers are because it can very easily be misinterpreted. So we have to raise $9,600 a month, and that's why I say the disclaimer. Most of you maybe don't make that amount of money, and why do we need to make that kind of money? Well, about 48% of that actually goes towards our payroll and our RSP, and then there's huge medical expenses that can often be incurred depending on where we're at. So we have to raise enough support for that, as well as cost of living adjustment. There are some programs that are more expensive than others, and then we have to think about schooling options, as well as we're not going to be able to go to a public school like we would here in Alberta, as well as a number other items, administration fees at 11%, and some other items. So I can answer that probably better at the back if you want to come visit us at the table and give you the exact numbers. So we have the $9,600 for outgoing, and then we have $58,000 for a one-time sending amount. One thing I should mention for those of you that don't know, like I said, we don't know exactly where we're going yet. We do have a video call tomorrow actually scheduled to meet with a couple of the different program directors and hopefully narrow down our program location as well. So we will be sharing that as soon as we know. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of vague to say as soon as possible, but that's definitely the answer that we want to give. So
Then I'll have this baby first.
Yeah, we'll have the baby first. And we're hoping to reach full support within a year. MAF does require that we raise full support before we are able to go. So we are going at it full steam ahead. Yeah, so that's part of the outgoing fund that we have to raise. Is we feel very fortunate that I don't have to work at the same time as raise support. We're hoping that this allows us to kind of springboard a little bit quicker overseas. And so part of our outgoing amount is going to pay for our living expenses now so that we can do this full time. And then as we raise some of that support, then we can pay that back into the ministry pooled fund as well. So as soon as that money comes in, then that means that when we get to take a little bit less out of that. So to answer your question, how you can support us now, certainly there's the obvious, we are looking to raise financial support, very much so. We are looking for prayer support as well. We know the difference that makes, and we have seen that very clearly. Yeah, just come and talk to us. One of the most encouraging things for me in this journey so far has been talking to many of you and just hearing about your stories and your interest as well in partnering with us. It's been so encouraging for both Nacia and myself. Well, if you have any further questions, then you can feel free to approach us, I guess, at the back. Otherwise, I guess we'll close off there. And
yeah, please stick around for coffee and stuff if you like, and we can chat with you further. And thank you again for coming.
I think we should respond in a spiritual and specific way, in that we need to pray for them. And here's what I want to ask you to do. You're going to shoot me, but I've done this over the years as part of the training of helping churches become more prayer-centered. And I'm going to ask you to form 5 little prayer groups out there and have 1 or 2 people pray in each group for Dustin and Nacia. So you've got to kind of find about 10 other people, I would think, and would you pray that God would fulfill the things that they've talked about with us today. So 1, 2, 3, go. Form yourselves in little groups.